Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Some next day thoughts on Tyson Fury ditching his trainer or former trainer Ben Davison in favour of a new voice, Javan SugarHill, otherwise known as SugarHill Steward. And I normally wouldn't do this sort of video, but it has been thinking about this whole thing since it broke, because obviously initially, I think a lot of people, including myself, were surprised. So my initial video, getting the news out there, but past 24 hours or so, I've been thinking about this and mulling this over. You know, what does this really mean? Is this a good move or a bad move, or should this have been something that should have happened a long time ago? And this is the thing. Obviously, Tyson Fury has moved on, and Ben Davison, he's putting on a brave face for this thing. His comments on Twitter in regards to this whole Tyson Fury moving on, he says, obviously, it's not going to stop until there's an answer. Tyson and myself had to both make decisions for our careers, which resulted in our working relationship coming to an end. However, we remain friends, and he will smash the dosser. So I guess you can take from that, reading between the lines, that it really wasn't his decision. That's my take, at least, that Tyson Fury has decided, for whatever reason, whether the relationship had soured or Tyson Fury just thought things had gone stale with the training, that it was time to move on. And he's sort of getting the band back together in terms of Javan SugarHill, in terms of he'd worked with him at the turn of the decade. He'd been in the Kronk gym, a little bit of work with Manny Steward, and obviously Javan SugarHill being Steward's nephew. He was there. He is a big part of that gym, and obviously had been training with Manny Steward for years and years and years and years, and had been a big voice in that gym. So Fury, obviously enjoying that, the time that he spent there, has decided that he wanted to go back to that sort of voice. I'm sure there could have been any number of trainers that would have stuck their hand up to train Tyson Fury. I saw a number of polls and a number of different things expressed. This was after the initial rumour of Davison being gone and potential trainers for Fury. And for the most part, they weren't Javan SugarHill. They were a lot of the big name trainers. A leading voice seemed to be Freddie Roach, who'd obviously worked with Fury ahead of the first Wilder fight. But going to Javan SugarHill, Tyson Fury obviously feels comfortable with that move. He's the one that's obviously initiated this. And the reasons behind it, well, who knows what they are. There has been a lot of talk over the sort of months in the past couple of years that Ben Davison, he might be the guy to sort of mentally G Tyson Fury up, whip him into the shape he needs to be in, but is he the sort of tactician and experienced ear that Tyson Fury needs to bend when he needs that advice? And with Davison, obviously, I think, in my view, he's done a very good job with Tyson Fury to get him back to the point he was in a title fight with Deontay Wilder. And not only did he fight well, arguably he won that fight. For a lot of people, they thought that he won that fight. So Davison, I think, even though he might be an inexperienced trainer in the scheme of things compared to guys who've got, 15, 20, 30 years plus, he did a good job with Fury, and he was the guy on the spot that was able to take him back from the brink, to make sure that he got back into the condition where he could re-enter and resume his pro career. And I think he deserves a lot of credit, but maybe it's just a situation that Tyson Fury, the sort of character that he is, he tired of Peter Fury over the years. He trained with him for quite a considerable amount of time as well, and after a certain point, he found it a chore to get back in the gym. Things went stale, he didn't like the setup anymore, and maybe it's just as simple as that they've been together for such a period of time, him and Davison, just decided that it was time for a fresh voice, something different. And I know that there's been a lot of commentary about the Otto Wallin fight being maybe the final straw, and that Tyson Fury didn't look as good in there, but I guess you have to step back and go, that fight in itself, Otto Wallin opened up Tyson Fury's eye with a punch. It wasn't necessarily anything to do with Ben Davison. Tyson Fury got caught. He was getting caught to the body. He did look a little bit flat in there even before getting caught by Otto Wallin with a couple of shots. But you've got to ask the question, has Tyson Fury himself, because he needs to train every day, and this is what he says, he has to stay active and busy. Had he gone into that fight, just a little bit on the burnt out side of things, had he overtrained for that one? I certainly thought he looked a little flat, and ultimately it was a good performance because he had to really come through some adversity. Couldn't see that well out of that eye. He tried to keep it close. He tried to make sure that Otto Wallin wasn't just landing shots from the outside, shots he wouldn't have been able to see coming. So he made it a dogfight and he got the decision. A lot of people have criticised Fury and Davison for that. Even John Fury was saying, look, this guy needs to be out of there, fire him. Ultimately, I guess that has happened. But was that fight really the straw that broke the camel's back? I'm not so sure. And we can't discount the fact that with these big fights that are going to come up for Tyson Fury, this rematch in particular, it could come down to the simple fact it may be about money. Maybe the sort of money that Davison expected to be paid for that rematch, which no doubt if it was a percentage basis would have been considerable. Perhaps Tyson Fury didn't want to pay it. It really could be that simple. He might be taking on Javan SugarHill, aka SugarHill Steward, at a much cheaper rate than Davison otherwise might have got. It's one of those things. Boxing can be quite callous like that. Just look at Triple G. As soon as he signed that big DAZN deal, Abel Sanchez was off the books. And Sanchez said, yeah, it was all about money. So it could be one of these things where it's broken down because of the almighty dollar. It could be a confluence of a whole bunch of factors. We just really don't know, and obviously both of them are keeping it rather classy in public at the moment, because if there is any division, it's only going to look messy and probably tarnish each other's reputation. And if Davison wants to get other work with top boxers, there's nothing to be gained by him slagging off Tyson Fury at this point if there was a disagreement or multiple different issues between the two. Ultimately, if they part on good terms, Davison can, obviously continue his career without a blot on his name. And fighters, sure, they can be difficult. Money can be at the root of some of these issues. Or perhaps it's just a change of scenery, a change of voice. Perhaps Tyson Fury just needed something different. He obviously, after a certain point, decided that Peter Fury wasn't the guy for him. He dreaded coming to training. Maybe it got like that with Davison to some extent. Perhaps they got too familiar. They tired of the same old routines. But Javan SugarHill, a new setup if Fury's going to be training in the United States at the Kronk Gym. Perhaps that can be, especially if he has a full training camp there. Who knows if he ends up going to Marbella again. They could do all manner of things with Tyson Fury in terms of his preparations, his training camp. But perhaps the new voice is going to be a boost for Tyson Fury. We have to consider that it won't necessarily just be a bad thing that he's changing trainers this late in the piece, because that fight, if it does happen February the 22nd, 2020, it's basically 2 months away. But if it does get pushed back, well, that'll give them a bit more time to gel together. But because they already have somewhat of a relationship, a bond of sorts from previous encounters, at the turn of the decade, maybe it is just going to sink in quite nicely. But it could be a change of scenery, a change of voice, and a slight change of tactics and a different eye. That could be the boost and the change that someone like Tyson Fury needs. And maybe some of this could be psychological too, that he's training under a guy that had the tutelage of Manny Steward. Javan SugarHill, the nephew of Manny Steward, obviously says he tries to keep that alive in terms of the style of boxing and the training that he does. So it could end up being something that psychologically Tyson Fury feels that having that, the Manny Steward influence, is going to actually be something to put him over the top here in the rematch. And I've seen some people saying he might try to knock Wilder out and all that sort of stuff, be a bit more aggressive. Who knows? So maybe while on the face of it, as I said in my initial video, this is a massive call, maybe this is a bit more considered, and there's obviously been some stuff happening behind the scenes, and maybe for some time. So for us it's new, but maybe Tyson Fury has known this is coming for some considerable time. So we'll have to see what influence Javan SugarHill, aka SugarHill Steward, will have on Tyson Fury, but it may not be all bad, and it might be that the grass is greener on the other side. Not always the case, but it could be. Maybe this is the push he needs for the Wilder rematch. But what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.